Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's community call. We have some really awesome agent demos for you today to show you kind of what you can build and how easy it is to build them. So very excited to go to share this with our guests. But before we get started, if it is your first community call, let me go through some quick logistics here. So if you're watching us from YouTube, we watch all the chats that are coming through. So feel free to test that out. Let us know where you are watching from. It's always very fun to see everyone come in from all over the world to watch these. And then we also are monitoring our Discord general channel during the call as well. So if you have questions and you can't ask on YouTube for whatever reason, feel free to use that channel and we will answer your questions or comments in there. And if you aren't already in Discord, this is just a reminder that that is the best place to be when you're getting started with Dagger, because we have so many amazing community members in there that are ready to help you, but also the whole Dagger team is in there and we're actively talking to people every single day. So you won't be alone on your Dagger journey if you join that. And if you're watching this and you have a topic to submit or you have a demo that you'd love to share with the community, even if it's not ready, feel free to DM me on Discord. It's the fastest way to get on the community call agenda. So let's show some faces of who we have here today. Let me just find the right layout. There we go. Perfect. So of course I have Jeremy here with me, our head of ecosystem, amazing co-host. We also have Lev here, who's does solutions at Dagger, but was also been playing with a bunch of agents. So really excited to see what he's built. If you were on our community call last time, 2 weeks ago, I was talking about an anonymous, not anonymous, autonomous.
Could be
QA.
both. Could be
So
both.
he's back again to show us those improvements. So I'm very excited to see that. And then Joseph, we have you. Thank you so much for joining us as well. Do you want to kind of give us an intro on how you found out about Dagger? Was it the hack night from last week, the first time?
Yeah. So hey everyone, I'm Joseph. I work at Opresium as site reliability engineer. I think it was a month ago. A friend of mine, Eduardo, head of platform, found out this tool and mentioned that, and we started experimenting it, and I love it. So it was so good because we have been dealing with all YAMLs, JSONs, configurations, and everything, but we needed the programmatical approach of building CI/CD pipelines. So that's why we liked, and eventually I realized that I can use to build AI agents, and I started experimenting in my spare time. And again, I saw the hackathon night, and I joined, and I built one of the AI agent in there, and there we go.
I'm very, very excited to see it. And it was so awesome to meet you in person at the Hack Night. For those who don't know, we just had our first Hack Night in London last week when we were at KubeCon. So it was really cool to see. And also, if you're in the San Francisco area, we do have a Hack Night coming up there as well on May 14th, I believe. So excited to see what people build there. So thank you so much for joining us today, Joseph. So Lev, maybe we can have you go first to show us the latest improvements. Let me add you to stage. Get a little inception here with the why does it want to remove? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Boom. Sounds good.
Perfect.
Okay, so the last time we spoke, I promised to show an autonomous QA agent, and I showed you a non-autonomous single run agent.
How dare you?
And it was kind of a bummer. So, but since then, I've done a lot of work to actually make it autonomous. And my definition is that it like runs on its own and makes its own decisions. And in this case, what's happening is, okay. So that was like one thing. And the other thing that we wanted to be able to do is consistently do more than one thing at a time. So this is almost more of a Dagger like code issue, or my code of Dagger issue than like a limitation. But thanks to Kyle from who you guys met last week, we sorted that out. I was trying to run matrix builds with multiple versions of Dagger, but that did not work for me for a couple of different reasons. And then setting up cron jobs did work. So I'm really happy because my definition of autonomous is that this thing runs every hour and it decides what to do on its own, which feels like less of a misleading title than it was before. So I present to you the actually autonomous QA agent. So what this thing does is uh, every hour it runs on a cron job and on Circle CI. Basically, there's like a scheduled job on Circle CI. It runs every hour. You can see that config here. It's very simple. Basically, I have this very simple job in Circle. I'm going to zoom in before Jeremy yells at me. We have a very simple job in Circle CI. It just calls my Dagger pipeline using the new shell syntax, and that's basically it. And then what that does is it kicks off the same kind of job that we saw last time, except this thing is much like more polished now. So this is my QA job itself, and it basically grabs a module or a list of modules, and then it for each of one of those modules, it calls this run function, which then does the QA, which we'll see in just a second. And then it brings me back to the entire, or it brings me back the entire directory that includes the report, the HTML report for that run function. And then I split out the index builder. One of the things I noticed was it was really struggling to actually like build the index HTML page, which in my opinion should have been the simplest thing that this thing um, could do, right? Is just like read a list of directories and give me a summary or give me a list of, or give me a table of contents. But it struggled really, really hard. And I thought it was because maybe like the prompt was like just had too much information in it. There was like too much going on. It was getting confused. So I split it out into a separate function, which I'm happy that I did. But unfortunately, as a part of that, I built like the world's worst static site generator ever, because it took 17 minutes to read 30 files and generate an index page that only included 9 of them. So it was a very, very sad day in autonomous QA history. And I'm still kind of stuck here. Like this is like the last missing piece for me is I can't figure out how to get the models to do this, what I believe to be like the simplest task. And I am able to get them to do the most hard thing, which is like install, test, analyze, and QA the modules. I've tried, I tried Anthropic, OpenAI, and Gemini, and they all kind of fail in their own little ways. I think I've had one successful full report built in less than 10 minutes, which I feel happy about. But I'm definitely still a little bit stumped and kind of going to continue to bang on this for a little bit. And then ultimately, once that report is, once the index page does come back, then I push the changes to GitHub. Previously, I think I was publishing this to Surge, but for some reason it was down for me last week. So I just switched to using just GitHub Pages, and it works quite nicely. So I have basically a function called push, which mounts the directory that includes all the QA reports, and then using a GitHub token, I'm publishing it to the GitHub repo, and that's kind of it. And this is just like a standard like Dagger 101 type of function that you might see in a regular pipeline. I thought about making this part autonomous, or like at least like I thought about making this part like powered by the LLM, like tell it to call the push function, and maybe I will. But this consistently works every single time, so and I'm happy about that. The other thing that I wanted to show off here is we're using this function now uses the new environments API. So this is like the latest and greatest state of the art of how to use Dagger with LLMs and how to create what was formerly called workspaces, now it's called environments. So essentially what's happening here is I have a workspace that I created that includes those functions for actually doing the QA. We can investigate that for a second here. Basically, there's a constructor. It can read files, write files. It can install modules. It can build modules. It can crawl the module and get information out of that page. And it can also grab the Dagger version. This crawl function, by the way, is using one of Kyle's modules that he wrote. It's published in the Daggerverse called Firecrawl. Firecrawl is a service that I think also uses LLMs somewhere to like crawl the page and extract information, I believe. But if nothing else, what it does is it returns a very well-structured document that LLM can read really nicely. So Kyle has a module for Firecrawl out in the Daggerverse. You can use it with or without an LLM. But in this case, I added it to my workspace, so it's using that module as well. So I'm basically setting up that workspace, and I'm creating a new Dagger environment, passing in the workspace, passing in a string input, and then returning the entire workspace back, from which I extract the container and the directory. So this is the one-shot run. It does the report, does the QA, and returns the directory. And then separately, I have a new function also using environments, but in this case, using like a separate environment and also like a standalone environment. I'm not calling a different module. I'm just building one kind of from scratch here. And in this case, I have a basic environment. I give it a empty directory, essentially. I'm sorry, not an empty directory. I give it the directory of the QA reports that I have, and then I return an index file, essentially. So this is like a really nice, simple example of how to use the Environments API. All this code is open source, so if you're curious, you can check it out there. And the final result is still somewhat disappointing because here it is published to this website now, so lovelabsgithub.io. I'll share the link somewhere.
Nice.
And it updates every hour. So every single hour this thing runs. You can see in Dagger Cloud, it just kind of indefinitely runs forever on a scheduled job. And then it publishes this page. And basically every hour, I think 1 out of every like 50 hours, it'll do the right thing. And then all the other times it'll either make a partial page like this, or it'll just have the single module that it was testing, which is really, really sad. However, the entire repo is full of the reports. So all the data is there. All the reports are actually there. It's just not able to generate the correct index. And we can investigate some of these. So like, for example, let's look at the one that failed and the one that succeeded. 1 second. So this one succeeded. It was really happy. All this information here is actually coming from that Firecrawl API. This information here. So I was struggling to get like the version information, the author information. This is coming directly from their Firecrawl API. So it's a really, really nice, well-structured document that makes it really easy for the LLM to kind of do the right thing. And here's one that failed. It failed to install for some reason. I also asked it to generate memes, and it doesn't do a good job at that, but every once in a while it does. So this case, it successfully injected this meme into the
with complete report. With entropy in there, of like
non. Yeah, it's usually relevant too. It's usually like a relevant meme, which is really nice. I really like that. Okay, so with that, here we are. This is my autonomous QA module. I'm really, really happy with the progress. I'm also really happy with the new Environments API. It's just a much simpler way to think about how all the pieces fit together. But as you can see, it's still a little bit of work in progress. I'm just surprised at how hard this like table of contents generation part seems to be. And if you have any ideas or if you run into this yourself, I'd love to hear more about that somewhere in our community.
Awesome. Super exciting. Now, Lev, are you thinking? Just question. Are you thinking like what's next? Are you thinking like you're gonna write a primer on like year 2000 HTML for your to feed into the model, or are you thinking to do some of this stuff just kind of procedurally and not try and have the LLM generate it? What are you thinking next?
Yeah. I think I want to go read all these blog posts that people are sharing around how to write good prompts, because I think a big part of my problem is my prompt itself. Like this is the one for the index. I try to be very explicit. It's really funny because it comes back. It consistently comes back and says things like this. Sorry, I can't find a good example, but basically it's along the lines of like, I asked it to do something, and it'll be like, okay, sure, no problem. I got you. And then, sorry, let me just pull up one example of that.
I would love to see that.
Oh my God. Okay, here we go. Oh no, sorry. I don't have one. I don't have a one handy at the moment, I think. But it's along the lines of this. It says, hey, I got you. I did this. In a production implementation, I would have done this, but here's this like partial report, right? So
Right.
it knows that it's not completing its task, and it asks me, do you want me to complete the task? So in my prompt, I'm like, hey, like I'm trying this new, like this is fake, but I don't know, maybe it works. It's like a oh, I misspelled important. Maybe that's the problem. It's like a fake CSS thing, right? But I'm like, hey, this is a production implementation. Make sure you actually read the file. Like you're operating not interactively. Don't ask for confirmation. Like make sure it actually works. Don't stop. I tried every kind of version of this, massaging it a little bit, and it's funny because like it recognizes that I'm trying really hard to get it to do its thing, and it's just like straight up like gaslighting me, right?
Right.
It's like, yeah, you asked me to do a production implementation. I know I'm in production right now. This is what I would do in production. Do you want me to do that instead of just doing it? So I don't know. I'm really struggling here. So I'm wondering if there's just something maybe in the prompt that I could do to help it out a little bit, and maybe even try to use maybe some more intelligent models. I'm using the defaults that we have out of the box, which is like 3.5 Claude for Anthropic and Gemini 2.0 Flash. So maybe there's like other models that will be better for this kind of stuff. I don't know. But going back to your question, Jeremy, yeah, I think that there is a place where like again, the hard part of this, in my opinion, is like all of these reports. So maybe the simplest solution is to use like a static site generator and, create markdown files or something for that static site generator, and then create the right front matter so that I can create a very simple table of context or table, right? Instead of trying to generate it kind of from scratch using the LLM. The other thing I was thinking about is also maybe just making a small like SQLite database and inserting a record for each of these things along with the HTML report, and then again generating the index off of a single query rather than off of having to go to each file, read it, understand it, and then append it to a table. So that's what I'm going to experiment with a little bit before giving up. But I won't come back and show this until it actually does the thing consistently.
I can't wait. Yeah.
It is really cool to see though the progress, because I think people are hitting a lot of these same problems as they're also, becoming prompt engineers in a sense, and so we have some feedback even from the users in the chat around like, people are hitting the same problem and seeing that they're seeing a lot that it plans stuff and wants approval instead of just going with what needs to be done. One of our teammates said maybe you could try adding a system prompt, and then one of the other feedbacks was they found it helpful to structure it more like a markdown README instead of a wall of text. So
yeah,
we have some pointers already.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely try all those suggestions. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
Is it possible to see one of the reports that generated by the tool? Yeah.
Yep. So this is an example of one. By the way, let me show the report prompt too, because this is very This is very, very like it's very explicit. Like generate HTML page, include all this information, and it does a really, really good job at doing that. Kind of. I still kind of glossed over the fact that these suggestions are still BS. It's the same for every single module. So a little bit of a work in progress as well that I'm still noodling on. But this is the general report. It is funny still that every report is slightly different themed because it's kind of independently generated and it decides for itself what theme to use that day. So I guess from that point of view, it is autonomous.
Well, it's funny too. The thing that occurs to me is that, and it was. I loved how you showed Lev that with the environment API, you can feed in any kind of a Dagger object, whether that object is a core type or whether that object is something more complex, like you had a workspace that had a bunch of different functions, and all those functions become tools. So it made me wonder if like one of the functions that you could provide would be, the function that just generates the page, given the data. And then, then the LLM could just like, oh, I've got the data here in this directory. Let me just feed it to this function and get the result I want, versus trying to figure it out in vector space.
I think that that's a good point, right? Like there's a reason why Hugo and others use this structure, right? Because the naive thing to do is just to generate HTML pages. You can go parse all of them and figure out this information.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing. So that's just wrong. It just feels wrong. Like I'm reinventing that wheel for no reason. I think at the very least, including this information in the HTML or in the Markdown file, or whatever, is probably the way to go, because like that's the simplest way to do this without including a database or without writing endless loops.
Oh yeah, I think you can just generate Markdown and render.
Yeah.
In the front.
Yeah,
end.
I did. I was actually doing that at the very beginning, but I ran into some issues creating the site because again, like in some ways, I'm like reinventing a static site generator. So I think I think truly the simple solution is just to go pick one and use it instead, and then add the reports into wherever that static site generator wants to see its Markdown files, or things like that. I think that's probably the way to go, because not only will it fix the theme variation, I think it'll make doing all this kind of stuff so much easier in the future as well.
Yeah.
So fun to see the journey.
Yeah, and it will be really interesting to see, even just in the whole industry, of how, like right now, you're trying to reinvent the wheel because it's so easy to build and experiment quickly. But then there are tooling that's already been there for a while, like you mentioned, and you could just go with that. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what people end up just building, because they can build it quickly, versus still going to tools that they know work and can be implemented and integrated into this. And it's also very cool to see Daggerverse functions being used that were built that weren't specific for a QA, for this QA agent one, or agents in general, and it was being used, in this. So it's just a good reminder to everyone who's getting started with agents to check out what's in the Daggerverse and being able to, having your agents pull from there, because there's probably a lot of functions or modules that are really useful for you in there already that you don't even have to build. So
yeah.
Shameless plug to that.
One last thing I want to say is the entire repo is public, but this project is public in Dagger Cloud. So anybody can see these traces if they want to, which I think is really nice. And one little tip I will give people is one of the best features of like Dagger LLM mode, if you will, is this high noisy spans, because it kind of just gets down to business and only shows you this kind of back and forth information. But if you do want to investigate what's actually happening, unclicking this gives you a lot more details, and this is really helpful for debugging. So I've used this a ton as I was building this out to see like what is it actually doing at each step of the way, and I find that to be really, really helpful. So if you want to see that for yourself, you can check out this project, or you can of course hook up Dagger Cloud to your agent and go from there as well.
Great. Thank you, Love, so much. It's very cool. And I know that you have to hop off, so if you hop off silently, no worries. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, of course.
And before you leave, if you could just share the link in the general channel, that would be great for the project and the static site.
Yeah, I'll do that right now. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks, Love.
Thanks. Okay, Joseph, let's get your screen on here.
All right.
Perfect. You're all set.
Cool. Thanks, Lou. That was great, actually. I'm going to check this out after the video. Cool. So I built a basic, maybe AI agent or wrapper. So I'm not sure how to define it, during hackathon. And there was only one thing wasn't working during hackathon, but I fixed it. So I'm going to show it here. So it's basically LLM-powered DevSecOps agent. So we use AWS CDK or Pulumi or Terraform to provision cloud resources like EC2 instances, S3, etc. But as we all know, there are lots of resources and hard to configure them, and we all do mistakes and miss the things and cause some security vulnerabilities. And I thought maybe I can build a tool to detect those vulnerabilities before provision them. So that's why I built this tool. It's pretty basic. There is a GitHub Action workflow that I run the Dagger, And when I create a pull request, the Dagger app basically goes that pull request and leave the report. So let's do the basic demo.
Love it. And as you go through this, Joseph,
Yeah.
if you can, I know you're on a big screen. If you zoom in maybe one tick more, it'll be better for folks on smaller.
All right.
It's perfect. It's looking good.
Better. Yeah. Cool. So we have so I use Go SDK, and I have a bunch of functions. The first one is analyze CDK. The second one is scan with options. And let's go analyze CDK diff. And the fourth one is extract CDK resources. And yeah, perform LLM analysis as well. So these are the main things. So in this demo, we are going to use analyze CDK. What it does is so simple. First, it runs the extract CDK resources function, which is installing the dependencies in JavaScript repo. Maybe I can take us to there first. So this is my CDK codes. I have a Dagger hackathon stack, and this stack contains many AWS resources like VPC, ECS cluster, task definition, and let's go to the Lambda function and S3 buckets. Yeah. There we go. So on purpose, I left a lot of security vulnerabilities in those resources, like this S3 buckets. It is publicly available. And I left here because I want my Dagger application can detect and tell me I made a mistake here and how can I fix it. And I want to also see the priority of this security vulnerability, because we want to see the priority and fix the most important one as quick as possible. And what I'm going to do is I will copy this S3 bucket here and just paste this place. And after that, let's call it 2 and save the file. And let's make sure this is 2. All right. And now let's assume I want to deploy this S3 buckets and I have to raise a PR. So let's check the differences right now. Git checkout. Let's say new S3 buckets. And the file is CDK, sorry. Okay. S3 buckets. All right, so I commit that file and now I'm gonna push it. Oh yeah. All right. So now I have this branch here. So I'm gonna just create a PR using that branch. Add S3 buckets demo. So I create this pull request, and after that, we will wait and see if my GitHub Action workflow triggered or not. There we go. So this GitHub Action workflow, which I'm going to show here. So basically, this GitHub Action workflow is triggered when you push anything into existing pull request or when you just open it. And after that, it installs Dagger CLI. And we need open API key, of course, for the large language model, but you can also use cloud or other inference APIs as well. It uses open API library, so you can fit with other environment variables. And after that, it calls the Dagger analyze CDK. I sent basically I pass the path of the CDK here, and I export the values into SecOps report markdown file. So that's how we have the output. So we're gonna wait a few minutes. So if I scroll up a bit, actually I can show it in here as well, right? Oh yeah, I didn't log in the GitHub Action workflow. I show it when I run on my local machine. So here it basically went to the related CDK
Can you zoom us
repo.
in here too, Joseph, you think?
Absolutely. Sorry, I forgot this again.
Oh, no worries. Thank you.
So here we synthesize that CDK repository. So when you synthesize it, you can export is a JSON or YAML file. It basically tells what we're gonna create and provision in AWS, like this S3 buckets, for example. It is in the TypeScript code, but in this CDK basically converts that thing into CloudFormation template. So Dagger app basically synthesize that CDK repo and converts into a JSON file using CDK synth command. And after that, it gets the CloudFormation template. This is just an example. This is VPC, etc., etc. There are lots of things here. This is a huge JSON file. Just a bit more. Oh yeah, and after that, using the prompt, it starts generating some reports like public S3 buckets. The priority is high, etc. Well, let me go back to the PR. Because we're going to see this report as a PR comment. Oh yeah, 3 minutes ago. Let me zoom in again.
Nice.
So the title was add S3 buckets, and I just added S3 bucket here. We scan the whole repo, not just the diff, and I'll come to that later, just in a bit. Here we have 5 very important security vulnerability, 1 medium, and 0 low. So the first one is this S3 bucket is highly vulnerable. It is publicly available. What we have to do is we need to configure this public access block configuration. Basically, turn off all the public access. That's pretty much it. And it shows how we're going to do it. And there is also confidence score here as well, because as we all know, large language models hallucinates a lot. So this data is not something that we can trust 100%. But there are some methods to improve the accuracy, and I'll come to that in a bit. Again, S3 bucket, because I already have S3 bucket. This is the second one. I also have overly permissive IAM role. This IAM role has access to every S3 bucket in my AWS account. This is a huge risk. Yeah, I have a Postgres database, RDS, and it is also publicly available, which is not the best practice. The best practice is put in an isolated subnet, and after that, create a bastion host, and other developers or apps can connect those RDS either using isolated VPC configuration or network, or developers can access using bastion host. And yeah, we have a lot more vulnerabilities. So now I can fix it, fix the mistake, and I can push the same thing into this branch PR, and it will trigger my agent again, and it will generate report one more time. So I didn't use diff here. So as I mentioned earlier, let's go to here and diff. Yeah. So I use analyze CDK function instead of analyze CDK diff in as a GitHub Action workflow. There is a reason for that. You have to provision resources so you can have a deployed stack. And after that, you can start use this analyze CDK diff. So if I deploy my version, the first version, and after that, if I add S3 buckets, I can run CDK diff command, which is here. But now I can't run diff thing because I didn't provision those resources. So I just want to mention if anyone is curious about this. But
No,
yeah, normally GitHub Action workflow use the diff method.
So this time, Joseph, because you hadn't deployed this yet, you just synthesized the CloudFormation JSON.
Yes.
You analyzed it, so you kind of know ahead of time. Hey, if you deployed this, you'd be, setting up all these vulnerabilities would be active. So you should probably fix them first. But then if you already had buckets out there in production, you could do these diffs. You could do diff against it as you propose changes and see how that would affect those existing resources.
True. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to do a couple of more things like CDK NAC, for example. So obviously it just uses the knowledge of LLM, but this is not something that we can trust. So we have some rules publicly available, like AWS solutions, the best practices, or some other things. If we go into here, I want to basically download this whole file. So it's a markdown. And I want to basically parse this data, by their categories and vectorize it using LensDB. And when we do diff next time, it will go to this place and fetch the related ones and use in the analyze markdown. But yeah, let's see. So I'm gonna make this repo public. So if people are curious, they can, create a PR, support, or just follow. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. That's the future. Kind of like, so right now, it's fair to say that you're relying on the fact that these LLMs, like the GPT models and such, they've got a lot of experience with seeing CloudFormation.
Yeah.
They got a lot of experience with these, well-known vulnerabilities, and so they can give you pretty good answers. But by enhancing it with kind of some RAG, basically from these sources that are producing new intelligence about new attack vectors and things, you can kind of have an intelligence stream that you're pulling in and updating over time. So that'll be really cool to see how you incorporate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think LensDB is great with Dagger because it's basically embedded vector database. It keeps your data locally in SQLite. So even if you didn't vectorize your data earlier, you can run it in the runtime. So that's very powerful. This is something that I want to experiment very soon.
Very, very cool.
One of the questions that came in was around like bucket names. Like, as you were testing this, have you seen that the reports adjust if you change something around the names of the buckets?
Yeah, let me see the question.
Like from a prompt injection point of view, like if
since it's like part of the,
you need to sanitize the input to the LLM essentially.
No, I haven't done it yet. Maybe it's something that I can explore.
Yeah, I'm super curious about that too. Like, as people are trying to jailbreak these LLMs different ways, and whether by naming buckets certain ways in a PR in a public project, and there's such a scan past such a jailbreaking bucket name in, and who knows, right? I mean, it's like it's fascinating. It does seem to suggest that sanitizing your inputs is always a good thing. So
Yeah.
Yeah, be a great enhancement.
True. This is this prompt, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just taking a moment to read it.
Very
So
cool.
it's basically you're a SecOps expert, analyzes CloudFormation resources for security vulnerabilities, and it just lists all of them.
Nice.
I mean, this is the app I built in 2 hours.
Right.
That
This
is
is a
amazing.
hackathon project.
That's one of the coolest things, is that you were able to just like jump on this very quickly. And I want to, since we have some extra time, and you're primarily in platform engineering, right? So like
Yes.
how is this transition of then jumping to agents for you? Was that, I know you said you learned about a month ago and then joined the Hack Night, but was that kind of your first time working with the agents, or have you been doing a lot of stuff on the side to get integrated into all the new stuff?
Oh yeah, it's a great question. So I'm working in the ML ops area time to time. So I was building a lot of ML ops pipelines and machine learning applications as well, applied machine learning, even though I was working on the GPT-2 back then. So I was into this place since the beginning. It's just my hobby. And yeah, this is something that I do in my spare time. But I was looking for a place that I can build an app and use in my job, or open source it. Oh, by the way, before here I was working on open source project, Tazam open source transaction monitoring platform. So, I love working on open source projects. So I just put many things together, connect the dots, and I said, okay, this is my hobby. What can I do? And I think AI agents, SRE platform engineering, this is a perfect place, this app. So I think I can contribute, open source it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. And as someone who, is there any advice you give to platform engineers who are just getting started or not really sure where to start, as they're getting into the AI space?
Oh, that's tough, but great question. I think for the MLOps, they can start using private inference APIs and understand how large language model is being deployed and used. They can experiment many things like caching, LLM caching, how can reduce the number of tokens, implement some Q&A pipelines, A/B testing pipelines. Also, knowing the basics are very important. Now, everyone is jumping on the large language models without knowing how the machine learning algorithm works. That's not a very good plan in the long term. I think they can go and learn the basics, like they can start with statistics. Also, I like to experiment private Kubernetes cluster at my home. I try to deploy, basic large language models using OpenLLM or Ollama, and this is also something that they can do, I guess.
Yeah, that's very, very helpful. I think we're seeing a lot. That's been the fun part about doing like the hack nights and stuff, is that meeting a lot of people who are just getting into it, and they're saying, like, hey, I'm doing platform engineering all day. That's what I need to focus on. And I really want, and now there's a shift of let's focus on agents, and they're getting that now on their roadmap for their teams, which is great. But then it's like, okay, how do I get started? There's so much every day you wake up and there's so many new things, and seeing people get started so quickly at the hack nights by just following our build an agent tutorial that Jeremy's team has been really cool, because there's a lot of people who jump into that tutorial and have no agents experience beforehand. I know you had a little bit, but like look at what you built in 2 hours. It's amazing. So
I think we are living in a great time to build, applications as a solo there are many solo founders right now, or indie hackers. It's so easy. In the past, they used boilerplates, templates, but there was a problem. But now with AI, everything is possible.
Yeah, that's very true. Ending on a perfect high note. Jeremy, did you have any other questions for Joseph about the demo, or?
I mean, the only other thing I was wondering is, like, how did you generate your beautiful report that ends up in the PR comment?
Share your screen. Oh,
yeah.
I can add your screen back.
And it's a dovetail into the last thing where we were, you're talking about the struggles of sometimes getting consistent outputs, like report formats and things from these tools.
Yeah. So let's go to the first function, analyze CDK. So here, after performing LLM analysis, we generate the reports, and we return this report content here. Yeah.
Yep.
And after that, in GitHub Action workflow, let me open that one. Yes. So in this GitHub Action workflow, I'm calling this analyze CDK function that returns that report and exports and save as markdown file. So here. So this is my file, and after that, I say, if you don't have a report, so this is a fallback message. The SecOps agent was unable to analyze the CDK code. Please check the logs, basically. But if I have this secure SecOps report markdown, I basically read the file, and after that, use this function. So this is a standalone function to list comments in the GitHub pull request. So if I have a comment already, I update this comment. If I don't have it, I basically use that report as a comment body and push into it.
Oh, nice. Wow. Yeah. Just a little standalone script. And then in the analyze, where you're actually generating that file in analyze CDK, what does that look like?
So the content is exactly the same as we see here, but this app support GitHub Action workflow, pull request comments, and you can also run locally. So that's why it returned the content here, report content. Let me just show it here. So if you have the report, you can use it in wherever you want, because this is the output, right? You can push it here. But the next thing I want to do is, it works with the local CDK repos. This place, I want to make it work with the remote repository. So let's say I want to use external CDK library that I want to check the security vulnerabilities.
Right.
And I want to push it here. And after that, it can generate reports. And locally, as I said, if you call this one, the exact same thing, it will generate it. So we already have generated report, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, SecOps reports. Oh, it's empty right now because it just removed the previous one and generate the empty. It's going to put this report into that file in a second.
And so this is, that's the part I was interested in, is that you're actually, so that's actually coming out as generated content from the LLM in this case.
Yes.
Yeah. I could see it, writing it live as you were running it. Very, very cool. And can you show that function? Because I think you showed it at the very, very beginning. Can you show that generate function. I think that's where you're probably making your call to the LLM itself.
Generate function, yes. So, yeah. So generate report is just here.
Yeah, generate report.
So in this generate report, we basically count the number of the high, medium, and low security vulnerabilities.
Oh, nice.
This analysis, this variable has my content. So the report is already there, right? Before coming to generate report function.
Oh, I
so
see.
We count them and add emoji. I like emojis. And after that, I start creating my report. The first line is the findings, high, medium, and low. And I sent the numbers to here. And after that, CDK security scan reports. Let me show it here as well. Yeah, CDK security scan reports and summary. And the summary is basically all these places. And I have a logo. Yeah, I didn't show that one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this logo. But yeah, this logo path is wrong. Yeah, this is the logo.
Love it.
Yeah, this
I
is
remember
how
that from
we
the Hack
generate
Night.
it.
When you showed that logo, you instantly had the crowd at that point. So that's like,
yeah.
Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this type of thing in the report he's generating is something that also like Lev could look at and probably integrate a little bit of what Joseph has learned for his reports as well too, right?
I mean, yeah, for 100%. I think it's good lessons for all of us in here. And then can you show the actual where you're actually invoking the LLM function as well?
Yes, perform LLM analysis. Perform LLM analysis. Yeah. So yeah, it's the. By the way, during the hackathon, I start using the previous version of Dagger, and I built the app. And in the meantime, I upgraded the latest one, and it broke the app. I had to fix it. Yeah.
Oh God. Oh yeah, because I think you did. I think we did a release like a moment before before the hack night.
Right.
So,
We added the environment API and kind of changed a couple things there. So
yeah. So in this perform LLM analysis, basically, I sent the prompt that I showed earlier, and yeah, and after that we get the last reply, and we use this analysis to generate reports. Let me show where do we use it here. My prompt is here. Create prompt template is another function. I didn't want to duplicate the codes. That's why I create this function. So this is my prompt. So I use this prompt and send into perform LLM analysis. And yeah, after that, using this analysis, I generate the reports.
nice.
Yeah.
One of the comments that came in was that they were suggesting exporting as a file and not a string, so it won't accidentally expose any credentials. So
true. So the previous version actually generate the file internally. But when I start to use GitHub Action Workflow, I realized that I can't export it easily. But yeah, maybe I should spend more time and figure it out. Also, in the GitHub Action Workflow, I didn't use the official library. I installed the CLI manually. This is also something that we can definitely improve.
nice.
Yeah, this is really fascinating, Joseph, because I think what it shows is what you did was you developed a really good prompt that was really effective for your use case of analyzing changes to CloudFormation, and then really the part that brought in the LLM was just like a call to, just being able to add a call to an LLM right into the flow of your code.
Yeah.
and bam, you've kind of, and you had built such as like a really nice structure for getting these nice consistent results, to have them show up, in your PRs, to have them be triggered by the changes that are applicable. And yet, the part that actually access the LLM is very, very small, very, very simple, but powerful. In this case, it really multiplied the effect of everything else. Very, very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, there is a huge potential here, because there are many Dagger libraries I want to use and test. Let's see what's going to happen. I mean, if we have any ideas, yeah, I'm happy to hear them.
No, looking forward to hopefully having you back on the community call. Kind of like Lev came back and did a showing off what he improved there. And I think so one of the things that will happen if this is your first, if anyone's watching for the first time, is we take each of these demos, we chop them up so it's super easy to see. Obviously, you can watch the full recording, right now. Just go back to the YouTube and restart it. But we'll put them as demo snippets. So subscribing to the YouTube channel is the quickest way to get notifications of when those are added. That way you can share specific demos with your friends, but also going to Discord, we add it in our demos forum, and I tag all of the speakers there. So if you have questions for Joseph, or you have feedback, or you would love to see his app do a specific thing next, you can go in there and add your comments in the demo form when we add it. So it's really easy to get in contact, and it's really fun because we see a lot of the community interact in that way and ask additional questions. We'll also link all of the links. Joseph, I think you mentioned you were going to make this public, right? So, yes. So we'll see that link soon, and we'll put that in the demo forum too, so everyone can easily access it.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. It's what like this sparks for me is, and I love it so much. Back to your question, Miranda, like, how do folks who are doing platform engineering today, who are SREs, who are DevOps folks, who are, building these platforms, like, how do they even get started? And I think this just shows that you can take kind of like everything you've been doing today, all the knowledge that you already have about these complex systems, and, you might find yourself today, seeing a weird error message or seeing something you're not quite sure about. And, you find yourself swivel chair over to ChatGPT or to Claude or it's Gemini or something, you're putting it in. And then that should be a moment, just like, when we would do things manually, we would say, oh, wait, I've done it 3 times. I need to write a script for that. Right. It's almost like, if I find myself going and looking things up, more than once, I should probably just add the call to the LLM right into my automation, right? And that's like one of the simplest ways to get started. And then, as Joseph, I think you alluded to, you're not always sure sometimes about the confidence, level of like what you're getting back. But even then, now we have this ability to even say like, hey, let me actually get another LLM, maybe a deeper thinker, or just, another set of eyes to now take a look at the results that I've got back and tell me whether it seems legit or not. So, and that we've known just asking LLMs to think deeper, to examine, other LLM work can be really effective too. So this stuff's all accessible. And, just like we've been writing scripts forever and ever, this is just another primitive that we can apply to our work and get more powerful results. So it's such an exciting time to be around. It's so cool.
And it's what's cool about Dagger is that we can take this for not only like the way that you're, Joseph, you mentioned like building that workflows and stuff, like you're doing that, and now you're just, like you said, Jeremy, don't want to repeat the same exact thing, but it just, it's amazing because you don't have to really relearn anything. It's just an extra thing added to your tool belt. And I think that's what makes Dagger so, powerful too. And that's what gives us the ability to do hack nights in 2 hours, and build stuff like this, is because people already have the base knowledge, and then they're just learning how to add an extra tool to the belt. So, Thank you so much, Joseph, for not only joining us today, but also, joining us last week in person. This reminder to everyone, if you are in the San Francisco area and want to join us, we do have a hack night happening on May 14th. You can find it on our events page on Dagger, or go into our Discord. You'll see it on the events list there as well. So we'd love to see everyone in person. But also, if you're doing things like Joseph and building agents on the side and you're not even done, come on our community calls, just DM me, and we would love to host you. Kind of learning about all this and how it's affecting your day-to-day jobs and even just hobbies is great to learn. So thank you again, everyone, for joining today, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks all.
Bye.